And a big hello, grade 3s again from me, Les, your maths teacher, coming to join you again for your next maths lesson. And I'm so happy to be part of this and happy to bring this to you today. So I hope you're going to enjoy what we do and understand exactly what's going on. Brought to you by WorksheetCloud, of course. And there is the email address you can use to get hold of me should you need to do so. Right, so what are we going to be focusing on today? Money. Right, something that we all need and something that we all enjoy having, money. And so we're going to learn about all sorts of things to do with money, and I'm going to take you through the basics once again. As you know, that is what I believe is the right thing to do. So if you get a little bit bored, I'd like to just encourage you to just be patient, because once again, I don't want to leave anybody behind. And I want to make sure that we cover all the basics first, and then I can get you going with something more complicated. So let's just get to the bottom of this money issue and move on. Before we do anything in maths, we need to have a good giggle, don't we, grade 3s? So let's go for it. So I'm going to actually share two little riddles with you today, and they are linked to money, of course. Oh yes, I love that laugh. All right, so the first one is, what did the duck say after he went shopping? Put it on my bill, which is an account, or bring me my bill, as when you've had a restaurant meal, you ask for the bill and they bring it for you to pay. The next one is, what did the cat say when he lost all his money? I'm poor. So there we are. Finished with our funnies for the day. Okay, what are we going to focus on today? So you need to know what it is that we're going to learn. Well, first of all, we're going to learn about the South African currency. And grade 3, currency is a word that describes the kind of money that we use. So in South Africa, we use rands and cents. And in the United States, they use the dollar. And in the UK, they use pounds. We use rands and cents. And so we're going to look at the South African coins and notes that we use. And we're going to look at the relationship between rands and cents. And then we're going to do one or two little calculations using rands and cents. But before we do that, let's get our heads into the maths gear so we can think mathematically. And so we're going to do one of my favorite type of puzzles, which is our picture logical puzzle. Right, and just interestingly enough, this particular example of a logic puzzle starts in the middle. Now, I want to just explain that to you a little bit. If you have a look at this particular puzzle, often we start at the top and we say, right, there is my little fruit salad pudding plus my rice pudding, and equals 16, but I don't know what either of those stand for. And then in the next one it says a little wrap equals my fruit salad pudding. I can't do that one either because I don't know what it stands for. But I can do the next one where it says 25 is the same as what two equal numbers multiplied together. What do you know about multiplying two numbers together to get an answer of 25, grade 3s? Yes, well, 5 times 5 is 25. So now we've made a start, but just notice we didn't have to start at the top. We could only start in the middle because that is where we knew we could use 5 times 5 equals 25. So now we're going to go down to the next one, and I know that that little cheese is worth a 5. Now the question is this, we have a subtraction sum coming up. What take away 5 gives me an answer of 4? And remember when we talked about subtraction and addition, that they are best friends, that they work together? Well, we know that 5 plus 4 equals 9. So 9 take away 5 or subtract 5 equals 4. Now I can go and put my 9 up to my wrap at the top there, because the wraps equal 9. Okay, but look at this one. This is an interesting one. It says to me that a wrap and a fruit salad pudding has the same value. So that must mean that that is the same as 9 as well. So now we can go to the top and we can say our fruit salad pudding is 9. 9 plus what equals 16? Well, we know that 16 take away 9, because you know we have addition and subtraction work together. We learned that a couple of weeks or a couple of lessons ago. So that is 9 plus 7 equals 16. So now we know our little rice pudding or our rice dish is valued at 7. And our fruit salad is valued at 9. But the bottom sum is now not adding or subtracting. It is multiplying. So 7 multiplied by 9 is... You got it, 63. Well done, grade 3. So now we're ready to go and learn a little bit more about money. Money. Right, so South African coins. And we're going to start to initially now to begin with our silver colored coins. But before we do that, let's have a little bit of a history lesson. So where does the rand word come from? So the rand is named after an area near Johannesburg called the Rand, and that area in Joburg is famous for its gold mines. So we now call our money rands. Here we have our 1 rand coin and our 2 rand coin. There's a front and the back of our 2 rand coin, and our 5 rand coin. And just to add to that, grade 3s, is that every now and again we have different designs of coins being invented. So after a certain few amount of years, suddenly the government will decide, right, we need to redesign a new 5 rand coin or a new 2 rand coin, depending on something that might be happening in our country, like it could be a new president has been voted in, or it could be a Olympic Games that a country's hosting, or a World Cup or something like that. And so often we have different designs of all these coins. But there are our silver coins, are 1 rand, 2 rand and 5 rand coins. Now let's look at our copper colored coins, which are brown colored coins. And we used to have a lot more of these. We used to use a lot more of them. But at the moment, we really generally are only using our 10-cent coin, our 20-cent coin, and our 50-cent coin. In grade 3s, I know that 5-cent coins are still kind of in circulation, but very seldom do we use them. So I'm not going to focus on those for now. Right, so what coins do we not use anymore that we used to use? Well, there are a whole lot of them, but I'm just going to zoom in on the more recent ones. So there's a whole collection of South African coins. Our 5 rand coins, and our 2 and our 1 and our 50, 20-cent and 10-cent coins. But if you have a look here, you can see that our 5 rand coins, which has got brackets around it, we hardly ever use nowadays. And we don't use 2-cent coins, and we don't use 1-cent coins anymore either. Now let's look at our South African notes. Those are the ones we like the most because they can buy us the most. And you all know this is all revision. I understand that, grade 3s, but we need to do this. Right, so we've got, there's our 10 rand note with our fabulous Nelson Mandela's beautiful face on our lovely notes, and our 20 rand note, and our 50 rand note, our 100 rand note, and our 200 rand note, which I always call the delicious note because it's worth quite a lot. So there are our notes. What can we buy using our money? I think it's important that you can get an idea of the value of our money. What can we buy using our money at the moment? And remember, this changes as the years go by. Well, if you look at a small packet of knickknacks, for 10 cents, that little copper coin, 10-cent coin, you could probably get 1 knickknack for 10 cents if you're lucky. And remember, this is changeable. It's not exact because the prices of these packets vary from time to time. What can we get with a 20-cent coin? Well, it's one eeny, meeny, miny, mo. One of those little coloured licorice sweets for 20 cents, maybe. And for 50 cents, there are our little Mr. Sweet strawberry fluffs. We could probably get one of those little strawberry fluffs for 50 cents. That's kind of an average or an about amount. I can't be absolutely sure. What can we buy using silver coins? I wonder if you have any ideas, because I don't think it's a question that you've ever asked yourselves, really. Because often we don't just go and spend 1 or 2 rand, do we? We spend a lot more than that when we go shopping. So let's have a little look. Well, 1 rand will probably buy you 1 carrot. But when do we ever just buy 1 carrot? Right. And there is a packet of apple-flavoured fizz pops, which are my favourite flavoured fizz pops, to be quite honest. You will probably pay 2 rand for 1 of those fizz pops in that packet. And there's a little bag of oranges, and you will pay 5 rand for 1 orange. About, more or less. What can we buy with our notes now, grade 3? Well, there's a little punnet of parsley, is what Mom and Dad use to flavour our cooking. And that will cost you about 10 rand. So you'll use a 10 rand note, more or less, maybe a couple of 1 or 2 rand coins added in, but on average about 10 rand. And there, it will cost us about 20 rand for a Coke. Now, my vegetable achar, which is my favourite flavouring to put onto my cheese sandwiches, that vegetable achar will cost you about 50 rand. And we haven't finished yet, have we? Because we have got 100 rand and 200 rand notes. Well, a bottle of olive oil will cost you approximately 100 rand, all depending on what make it is and what specials are on at the time. And olive oil is quite expensive, so I often look for specials when I buy my olive oil. Then a fairy tale book or any book pretty much will cost you about 200 rand, all depending on the book, of course. And of course, if it's a second-hand book, we can obviously get it cheaper. But that's about what you can buy with our money, grade 3s. Now there are money families. Let's have a look at our money families. And this is important that we know these basic things, because then the next step when we learn money and we deal with money in the next lessons, we've got the basics in place, even though we might think, is this not grade 2 work? Well, maybe yes it is, but we actually need to make sure we understand everything. We have the Rand family. They are the really important, and they think they're very important. The Rand coin, the 2 Rand coin, the 5 Rand coin, the silver money, the 10 Rand note, the 20 Rand note, the 100 Rand note, and the 50 Rand note, and the 200 Rand note. All very important. Then we have the cent family. And the cent family doesn't feel nearly as important as the Rand family. Our little cents are our little copper-coloured little coins, 10 cents, 20 cents, and 50 cents coins. So there are our 2 families, our Rand family and our cents family. Then we have also our Rand sign and our comma. Our Rand sign is always written as a capital, and it is our currency that we use in South Africa. And then we have our little comma. Now that comma has an extremely important job to do. That comma separates the Rand coins and notes, so the silver coins and the notes, from the little old cent coins. So for instance, 58 Rand 50 The numbers before the comma are our rands, so 58 rand, and the number after the comma is our copper-coloured coins, 50 cents. Let's have a look. There's a 50 rand note, a 5 rand coin, a 2 rand coin, and a 1 rand coin. There's our 58 rand in front of the comma. What goes after the comma is our 50 cents. So that there written in number form is 58, 50. 58 rand 50. It's important that you understand this. Right, let's look at our cents and our rands and have a closer look, shall we? We know that 10 times 10 cents equals 100 cents, but that 100 cents is the same as 1 rand. 5 times 20 cent coins is the same as 100 cents, which is the same as 1 rand. 2 times 50 cent coins is the same as 100 cents or 1 rand. Have a close look at that. 100 cents is the same as 1 rand. How do we write our money down correctly? Well, let's have another look at 58 rand 50. There are always grade 3s. When we write money and we've got to write rands and cents together, there are always two numbers or two places in the cents house. And the cents house is this area here, which is just after the comma. Remember that our smart rands, who think they are very important, they go before the comma. They go in front. And behind them come the poor little copper-coloured coins, the 50 cent coin, the 20 cent coin, and the little 10 cent coin. Right. So, just to explain this, or to illustrate this concept and this rule, I'm going to ask you the question, how would we write 58 rand and 10 cents? Do you think that that is how we would write it? Remembering that what I said is that you have to have two places in the cents area here, in the cents house. So you can't ever just have one number there. So the correct way of writing 58 rand and 10 cents is not that way, but 58 rand 10 with two numbers after the comma. Now we're going to look a little bit more closely at money calculations. And I'm going to jump straight in with adding rands and cents. Right? I'm not going to just add your rands and just your cents, because you've done that in addition and subtraction and all our four operations already. So I'm going to dive straight in to the following. There is a picture of a delicious hamburger which costs us 23 rand 50, which is quite a reasonable price. I think it's probably quite a small hamburger. And there's our packet of chips, or slab chips as we call them in this country, or fries if you're in America or the UK. And those chips are valued at 8 rand 50. So now, if I buy one hamburger and one packet of chips, I'm going to have 23 rand 50, and then I'm going to have to also pay, yes, 8 rand 50. So what I'm going to suggest you do is I'm suggesting you're going to add the rands first. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, let's have a look and see. The rands are always in front of the comma, so 23 rand and 8 rand are your rands. The 50s are your two little 50 cent coins that you will add up later. So let's see how we do that. Well, 23 plus 8 is 31 rand. So we have added up our rands, but now we've got to add our cents. And here is my cents there and my 50 cents there. So now I have to add the cents. 50 cents plus 50 cents. Well, we know that two 50s equals 100 cents. which is the same as 1 rand, because 1 rand is the same as 100 cents, as we saw earlier. Now I've split my rands and cents, as we've done with addition before, but now I've got to join them back together again. So 31 rand plus 1 rand is 32 rand. So I would pay 32 rand in total for a hamburger and chips. Looks delicious. And grade 3, there we have it. We are finished with our first ever money maths lesson. And we're going to certainly be building on that lesson and making our learning a little bit more complicated and a little bit more advanced as we go along. And I will then be introducing or including money calculations and money questions into your future number mixed bag lessons and worksheets. But before you go, let me just remind you that there is a worksheet for you to do, and an answer sheet or memorandum that you can use to mark your work. So it's all that's left for me to say, grade 3s, is a big goodbye. Have a lovely, lovely day. Be safe, be happy, and be kind to one another at home and help with everything at home. And until next time, from Les to you, it's a warm, cheerful goodbye.